You like D&D, Audrey Hepburn, Fangoria, Harry Houdini, and croquet. You can't swim, you can't dance, and you don't know karate. Face it, you're never gonna make it.
I don't want to make it. I just wanna.
Scott Hansen said, "We're back, boys." Welcome back to the pod. And I mean, clearly this year has been all about the video, right? Everyone's done video, so it's only right that the pod would become a video podcast. Drake May is the starting quarterback for the New England Patriots, and let's be honest, I couldn't be happier about it. Jacoby Brissett and the Patriots to this point in the season have been, I don't know if underwhelming is even a fair word for this. It's just been a slug. They start the year, they win the first game, win it against the Bengals, who, I mean, Zach Taylor's a joke. Like, he's a horrible coach, and like he really hasn't been anything since the Bengals got him. I know he got him to the Super Bowl and stuff, but let's be honest, that was Joe Burrow. And Joe Burrow, to me, is really the carrier of that team. And they just start slow. Like, it just every year. It's just kind of what it is. They start very slow in the NFL season. And I think the Patriots caught them at the right time, right? You got the couple turnovers. You got Marcus Jones recovering the fumble on the goal line there and returning it back almost to 30 or 40, I think is where that went to. And I just don't think the Bengals really ever had they just weren't into that game. Like, Jamar Chase was looking for the contract that would kind of get him to that next level, get him to one of the highest paid receivers in the NFL, and they still haven't done that. And they were never going to do that, but, you kind of got lucky in that game where that was going to be part of the situation, and you won that game. And then we go to Seattle, right? And I think Seattle, that was probably the best game of the season, as far as I'm concerned, with the Patriots offense. I felt like they did everything they could to win that game. And it was, I mean, to score 20 points with the Brissett run offense, to me, is pretty good. Like, I felt like they really kind of exceeded expectations, if you will. And, you let up the one deep touchdown to DK Metcalf. Obviously, that was a blown coverage. I mean, you could see everyone was turning around going, like, what the hell? Like, you were supposed to hit that. You were supposed to hit that. And ends up being a 3-point game. You go to overtime, you lose by 3 points. And, like, at this point you're feeling like, oh, okay, this team isn't they're hanging in there at least, right? Like Bengals are supposed to be a good team, Seahawks are supposed to be a good team. All right, we're feeling pretty good. And then you hit the Jets, and let's be honest, the Aaron Rodgers cooked you. Like, he just did. Like, he was on, and, like, there's few guys, I would say, that are in the NFL in history that just, like, when they're on, the game kind of just ends. And I felt like this was one of those days where Rodgers just couldn't miss. Every throw, scrambles right, you hit the throw, scrambles left, you hit the throw. And this is where the kind of glaring issues with the Patriots, if you will, kind of started, where suddenly once they got down in that game, you really felt like the game was over. And that to me was kind of the first time I realized, oh, this team has a lot of glaring issues, and they're going to start to show up a lot more often. And show up they did. You get to the 49ers game. Just think about the 49ers game now. And Brock Purdy is scrambling around on you. He's making great throws. Brock Purdy probably doesn't get the credit he deserves. But by halftime, that game didn't feel competitive, did it? Like, I don't know, like, anyone who would have said, like, oh, yeah, that game felt like, the Patriots were right in. They were never in that game. And, again, that just continued to kind of show the flaws of the offense, right? Like, the defense now, at this point, is dealing with a few injuries where they're not quite as ready for these games as maybe they had been in the first few weeks. Because let's be honest, the defense was really the reason we win the Bengals week and the reason we're in the Seahawks week. And Juwan Bentley goes down, and now suddenly, okay, what do you do about that? The 49ers just stomped on us, and that was really kind of the eye-opening moment for me, where I was like, oh, this isn't a positive thing anymore. This team really is going the wrong direction. And then the Dolphins game happened, right? And the unfortunate part is that I did go to that game, and I got to see really what was happening in person, and good God, it just looked bad from an offensive perspective. Like, Christian Gonzalez was unbelievable the whole game. He locked down Tyreek. Tyreek catches the touchdown in the corner of the end zone and kind of goes to the fans like, oh, I got that. And they're immediately like, you're out of bounds, dude. You're out of bounds. Yeah, he was out of bounds. And that was really all he did on the whole day, which, unfortunately for me, from a fantasy perspective, isn't the best. But this game really highlighted, I think, some of the issues that the Patriots have had with Jacoby. And again, I love Jacoby, and I don't wish anything like poor on him, but there were so many throws I saw where I was like, oh, if you could have thrown that to Pop, if you could have thrown that to Jalen, if you could have thrown that to Kendrick, you could have hit those throws. And he just didn't make the throws. And that at the end of the day is kind of, I think, been the biggest knock on Jacoby, has been, you're missing some pretty easy throws. And this is the first time I think that the offensive line really held up. Like, he had the time. It wasn't just like, he's just trying to get the ball out because he doesn't have the time. Like, he had the time to actually make the correct read, the correct throw, and he didn't make it. And I think that's kind of that's what I took away from the game. And again, like, obviously Jalen Polk makes the catch in the back of the end zone, right? And everybody's like, oh my God, like, Jalen Polk made the catch. And again, I'm at the game, right? So I'm high-fiving people just like, we did it! We beat these guys! These guys suck! And then the replay comes down, and obviously he didn't catch it. And he's going crazy, right? Like, he's on the field just, like, pumping people up. Like, let's go, hey, yeah, I got that. He didn't get it. Like, by the letter of the law, you could see that he didn't catch that ball. And, unfortunately, once he didn't catch it, I mean, I felt like every fan in the stadium kind of knew, like, they can't. That was the one moment, right? Like, you can't have another moment like that. They're not going to have it. And it was crazy. Like, the whole place kind of cleared out once that catch didn't happen. And they go down, and they try on fourth down, and they miss it, right? And I was like, man, like, come on, guys, we gotta stick around. We got another chance. Like, what are you guys going? What are you leaving for? Like, this is it. We can do this again. And then he throws it to the middle of the field on like the last play of the game, and I was just like, and the second he threw it, I was like, please don't catch it. Hunter Henry catches it, and you're like, oh, the game's over. They can't get up and spike that, and they couldn't, and that was the game. And man, it's just poor execution. It's just poor execution. And now I kind of want to get into the coaching staff. And this is like, the coaching staff is an interesting conversation, I think, because you kind of have to start at the top, right? And this is something I've been feeling kind of the whole season since they kind of moved on from Bill, brought in Elliott Wolf, brought in Gerard Mayo, brought in Alex Van Pelt, DeMarcus Covington, right? So those are kind of the big pillars, if you will. And Ben, this is for you to understand kind of the makeup of the team, right? But the first guy in line for setting up the Patriots organization right now is Elliott Wolf. And I just can't help but feel like he did a poor job this season. And the only reason I say that is because all he did is swing at wide receiver. And on the surface, seeing what the Patriots are right now, you'd be like, well, of course you swung at wide receiver. Your receivers suck. And they do. Let's not sugarcoat that. But how do you sell a wide receiver on the New England Patriots right now? The plan was to sign Jacoby Brissett. Does that excite anybody? Like, is anybody like, oh, yeah, that's going to get wide receivers to come to this team? No, it's not, right? So, what's the next lever? Oh, we're going to draft a rookie quarterback to be kind of the future of this franchise. We want you to come down. Well, I don't know if that rookie's going to be good. I mean, if you look statistically, rookies have like a maybe 40% chance to be good. If I'm a veteran wide receiver, do I really want to take a chance that, oh, this is going to be the one guy that's going to be good? No. And to me, this is the problem with what Elliott Wolf did this offseason, because it's like, this is all he did. He just swung at receivers. Now, the one position I think you can actually convince, as far as offense is concerned, to come join a team is offensive line, and he did not do this. And this has kind of been the problem that the Patriots are dealing with right now, is why not go just overpay a veteran in that position? I think about Joe Thomas. For those of you who don't know who Joe Thomas is, he was a Hall of Fame left tackle on the Cleveland Browns, and yes, he was on the 0-16 team. He never was on a great team, right? But he still had a Hall of Fame career on that team. To me, that means it's a position where you can still go have a heavy impact on a team regardless of the fact of who's on your offense. Doesn't matter who your quarterback is. Doesn't matter who your receivers are. Doesn't matter who your running back is. You can still go shut down the guy that's right in front of you, and that's all the offensive line does. And you could have convinced somebody to come and play that position, and Elliott Wolf didn't do it. And to me, that's kind of, as far as the way the season's gone, that's the biggest glaring hole that we've had so far this season. And the other things he's done, right? Like, he did all the obvious stuff. You draft the quarterback third overall. In this draft, it is kind of a no shit. Like, you're going to take one of the best quarterbacks available because there's 3 really good quarterbacks. And again, for me personally, I always thought I wanted Drake. I wanted Drake the whole time. I didn't care about Caleb. Didn't care about Jaden. Looking back on that, maybe Jaden would be pretty good, but I wanted Drake. And they took Drake, and that was great, but you took the guy that fell to you. It wasn't really rocket science, right? So, like, to me, it's like, how do you give him credit for that? And then you draft Jalen Polk in the second round, and yeah, I mean, again, kind of a no-shit pick, right? And then the other things he did, he took and re-signed all of Bill Belichick's defensive players. Wow. That takes a lot of thought. Like, the greatest defensive coach of all time. Let me go to re-sign all the guys that he thought was good. Is that impressive? Like, I just, like, to me, it just wasn't a good offseason for him. I truly don't believe he did a good job. And to me, that's like a D+ effort. Like, he had so many chances to do something to really improve this team, and I don't know how you look at this team and say, like, oh, it's significantly better because he did that. It's not. So we'll go down the ladder, right? And I go to Gerard. And so far, I think in game, Gerard's done a very good job. Like, I can't point at a lot of things, minus, honestly, in Miami, the 12 men on the field, but I really don't blame him for this either, because it's like a special teams coach issue. I mean, the head coach's job's really challenge, check for, I don't even know, like, first down, like, jump in critical situations to make a play call. Like, it's not to really do a whole lot on game day. It's really to set up game day, I would say. And on the whole, I would say Gerard's actually done a fairly good job with this. Like, I feel like I feel like the Patriots have been relatively clean in the head coach area as far as, like, challenging and, you know, making the right decisions in certain situations, especially, like, time-related issues, right? So I feel like he's done a good job there. Where, like, Gerard just needs to kind of figure it out. I feel like he went into this season just saying, like, I'm going to be the anti-Bill Belichick. Like, I'm not going to be cold to the media. I'm going to be very open with them. I'm going to tell them exactly what's going on. And there have been some situations where I'm like, dude, just, it's not worth it right now. Just don't tell them about it. Like, you don't need to tell them about this certain situation and be so specific about it. And I think that's just kind of been a feedback across, like, the Boston sports media of, you know, this is kind of what he has been since being a coach. But again, like, to me, I really don't care about that. Like, I don't care. He can say whatever he wants to say, and as long as the team isn't suffering because of it, then I'm cool with it. You know what I mean? Like, that's cool. And now let's hop into AVP. Oh, AVP. I struggle with him. I think everybody who's kind of watched the team struggles with him, because what I'll tell you is, like, I'm not a trained eye for football. I'm really not. As much as, like, maybe you guys think, like, oh, Kyle probably has, like, the best sense of, like, what's going on with football. I really, like, I don't have a trained eye. I really don't. And I can say, going to the game this past weekend, I could tell you exactly when the Patriots are going to run the ball and when they're going to throw the ball. And if I can see that, I can guarantee you a defensive coordinator or anybody on that defense knows exactly when they're going to run the ball. And I think this is, like, unfortunately, part of what's really been the issue with the defensive line, or offensive line, I apologize, where, like, they're getting, like, it's just so obvious. Like, if I'm a defender and I see the way they line up, sometimes you know exactly, like, oh, okay, they're running the ball, so let me just go balls to the wall, just sprint at them, because I know they're going to run, and that's going to stuff the run. And it's tough. It's just like, okay, like, it's just obvious play calling. And to me, I've seen this a little bit. I don't know how fair it is. But I think AVP did want to hold Drake back a little longer than this, based solely on the fact that how do offensive coordinators save their jobs? Generally, it's because they hold the quarterback back, and then they can kind of go and say, well, hey, I would have called the right plays. However, I didn't have the right guy in place. Now we're going to have the right guy this next season. Hey, we're going to go. We're going to win because we got this guy in place, and this is going to be sweet. I think AVP was relying a lot on this. And I really do believe this. And unfortunately, for Drake's first year, I'm very, very nervous about how this is going to go for him. Because I just don't see creative plays. Like, I know there was the play where I forgot who caught it, but then they flipped it to Ramondre, and he went and tried to get the first down. That's the most creative play we've had all year, and we suck. All right, like you gotta make creative plays, and I just don't think AVP has a lot in his bag. Like I think we were so spoiled with Josh, where it was like every year it was Myers, it was Edelman, where they would go and like do a little flip pass, and then suddenly he'd throw it, and you'd be like, oh my god, something's crazy is about to happen. I just don't see AVP having that in his bag, and we'll talk about it as the season goes on, obviously. The one thing I'll give him is he's a first-time play caller. He's kind of young in his play calling situation, so it's maybe he eventually figures it out, but as of this point, I just don't see it. But I think the exciting thing about this weekend is, we're going to see a really good football team, the Texans. And again, I was trying to hit up all of you to go to the game. Nobody's hit me up. If you want to. Again, I'm just going to drag Grace if you guys don't hit me up. So don't do that to her. That's all I ask. Just don't do that to her. But the interesting thing is, so CJ Stroud at one point said that Drake May is actually the quarterback he's most interested in because he thinks he's the most NFL ready. I do think that's interesting, coming from a guy that, admittedly, I thought was going to be terrible. I saw CJ Stroud and I was like, when the Texans made that pick, I was like, oh, it's classic Texans. They just fucked that up. You didn't pick the right guy. I mean, so far they've absolutely nailed that because he's been the best quarterback in the draft and it's not even close. And he said, Drake out of this draft, even with Jaden, would be his top pick. I'd say so far, it's you look at Caleb Williams. What's he done? You look at Jaden. He's done a lot. He's really fucking good. They get Drake, right, who hasn't really had anything around him. But I mean, arguably, Jaden went on to a team that was pretty shitty before too, and he's done a fairly good job, obviously, right? So it feels good, I think, to hear CJ Stroud say, hey, this is a guy I think is going to be a pretty good player in the NFL. And again, the one thing I'll say is, I don't know that you can say he's going to be a great player this year, Drake. I don't know you can say Drake's going to be a great player this year, but you do hope, at least, that he's kind of going to figure it out this year. But I will say, I think the Texans just held Josh Allen to 131 yards passing. That's not good. That's not good for the first-time quarterback Drake May. That's just not going to be good. The one positive we have is that Nico's out, and so it's really just going to be Diggs and Tank Dell. And then I don't know if Joe Mixon's playing, but I don't think he is. So, you're going to kind of have a running back by committee situation there. So they're a little banged up, right? I think defensively they're not, but offensively they are. So, you could probably use your good defense if you're the Patriots to hold them to less points. And it's going to come down to what offense can perform a little bit better. And, obviously I would assume that's going to be the Texans because CJ Stroud's awesome. And at this point, I'm just not betting against the guy. But the spread is +6.5. Yeah, like the Patriots could do that. I kind of do. So I would take the Patriots +6.5, and we're going to see how that goes. But all right, boys. You know that the end of the podcast generally means that we talk about fantasy, right? Currently, we're in Italian week. Thanks to Matt Sabati, who's on his honeymoon right now, and I hope, Sabati, you're having a great time. I feel like you should have given up GCPR rankings for this week. Because I don't know how invested you've been this week, but hey, I ain't gonna complain. The question is, do I want to complain about the past couple weeks? I actually thought Andy did a great job, which annoys me. I appreciate the fact that he's so self-deprecating, even though I know that about him, because he's like secretly hating himself all the time. But like, that's not a big deal. Like, that's why I love him. And then Pat, I mean, learned to work a video, dude. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, obviously, I've never messed up with you in the past. Like, so that's why I didn't really get what he was trying to do there. But what do we say about this fantasy league? Hold on, let me pull up the stats real quick, and oh, I am well in first. I feel like so good this year. Like my team's nasty, top to bottom. I mean, Bo tried to make a trade with me before he made. I don't even remember what trade. I think he made it with James or something like that for like around Christian McCaffrey. And I was just like, I looked at my team and honestly said, like, my team is just that good. Like, why would I make a trade right now? And you know, in second place with Driscoll being there, this might be the most deserved second place I've ever seen. Because this guy, every single year, is probably second in scoring. And finally, I mean, we're talking about like 3 years straight. Finally, it has added up into the correct record where he deserves it. And at number 3, Matt Savati. Let's talk about a guy who doesn't deserve it. His team really just hasn't been there. And let me show you guys this, like, going down. I mean, we're talking about 622 points. I mean, it's not bad. It's not good. I mean, I look at Michigan alumni James DiGregorio, and I'm like, man, he's got more points than him. So, that's about it, not bad, but a little disappointed. And fourth, James, you're having a great year. You just have, I think, one of the most points against it in the league against you. What are you going to do, right? And then we got yeah, the commissioner, Pat Barrett. I feel like he corrupts the league. I feel bad about that. Like, I don't want to say that, right? Like, I don't want to say that he corrupts the league, but there's just something not right there. And even when he did the rankings, it's just like, dude, like, what are you trying to pull here? Like, I just didn't like it. And then we get, honestly, 6 through 10 in this league. This is a tough situation. Let's just call it what it is. Ben, fine. You're doing fine. 2 and 3. We got Raheem Riders, which I believe is Sean. Oh no, it's not Sean. It's Andy, isn't it? Yeah, that's Andy. Yeah. I don't understand how that's. I actually don't, like, physically in my body understand how he's not in last, but he's in 7th. And then can we talk about my friend, Brendan O'Connor? 475.8 points. Everybody just take a second to soak that in. And hold on, by the way, 534.7 points scored against. I mean, that's a joke. This guy isn't in last. 475 points scored. Like, at some point, do we make a rule where you say, like, if you have such a crazy amount of points behind who's ever even last, like, I mean, we're talking about potentially, like, after this weekend, 100 points behind. Should Bo be the last player? I'm just going to throw it out there. I just want to ask questions. Because to me, like, 475.8 points, that's insane. And then in 9th place, we have a guy I think that's in our league. And then in 10th, unfortunately, about to get another loss this season will be Sean. So, I don't know, guys. Like, I feel good in our league. I get concerned about who has to do the punishment. And to be clear, like, I think Sean's going to do an unbelievable job with that punishment. Like, who would have a better day in life than Sean O'Sullivan? To get married, brings his dog to the beach. I mean, who doesn't want to see that stuff? We love him for that. But on that note, boys, I'm going to sign off. And all I want to say is, go Pats. Again, if anyone wants to go to the game, please let me know. And to be clear, I am not okay.